The PC gave us computing power at home, the internet connected us, and mobile let us do it pretty much anywhere. Now generative AI lets us communicate with technology in our own language using our own senses. But figuring it all out when you're living through it is a totally different story. Welcome to Leading the Shift, a new podcast from Microsoft Azure. I'm your host, Susan Ettlinger. In each episode, leaders will share what they're learning to help you navigate all this change with confidence. Please join us. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You know that feeling when someone shows up for you just when you need it most? That's what Uber is all about. Not just a ride or dinner at your door. It's how Uber helps you show up for the moments that matter. Because showing up can turn a tough day around or make a good one even better. Whatever it is, big or small, Uber is on the way. So you can be on yours. Uber, on our way.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply. USAA.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast, episode 344. Do spoilers make movies better?
With some spoilers. Welcome to the Animation Addicts Podcast with the Rotoscopers, the #1 place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode.
Hey there, animation addicts. I'm Morgan Stradling.
And I'm Chelsea Robson.
And Chelsea, the question of the day, to spoil or not to spoil?
That is the question of the day. We will be discussing this.
We will be getting there in a second, but
yeah.
What have you been up to? Before we talk about spoiling everything, let's spoil your life.
Oh, man. Well, I have been very busy doing a whole bunch of stuff that are non-podcast related. I have been taking some classes online on Excel, Google Analytics, and accounting. So fun.
Fun.
Morgan, what have you been
some
up
of those
to?
are actually
they're very
those
important.
are actually fun. Yeah, like I remember
They're very important.
So
but
the
just
way
a lot
that
of numbers.
Totally. I remember having to take summer school in high school because we had release time where we'd go take religious classes. And so as a result, we were always short credits to graduate. So you had to go take summer school, and it was just a few weeks in the summer. It was like a half day sort of thing. And usually you and your friends all signed up for the same classes and just had a fun time with it, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember taking a computer class that just was basic word processing, how to do, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, I think, and that was probably like the main ones. And I remember that was probably one of the most helpful and memorable classes because it made my life so much easier from that point on. Like now I knew how to set the margins. Yeah. Now I knew how to do automated tabbing. Like knowing how to do things like how to align your text on a page or with a tab and an indent. So when you're creating a program for something, it's all aligned. Like these are stupid basic things that most people don't know how to do. And so when you see someone that was like in charge of creating a program or something and you're like, someone did not take their intro to computers class because
right.
Everything's askew. Anyways, yes, taking classes on Excel is fun to me.
I have learned quite a bit on Excel. The problem with Excel is that because it's a paid program, that it's like I would end up using Google Sheets more, and so but it's still there's so much that you can do with Excel. So it is right. Amazing, and you're basically learning how to code. So #learn to code.
Indeed. Yes.
So that's what's going on with me, Morgan. What has been going on with you?
Well, we talked about a few weeks ago, I went and saw all the different re-releases, 2 of the 3, I guess, that came out that weekend. I should have gone for the old hat trick. But since then, I have gone down a major rabbit hole. When I'm talking about this. Do you know who Brandon Sanderson is?
Not off the top of my head, other than that you have been sending me his videos, and I haven't been able to watch because I've been taking classes on Excel,
She's
Google
been
Analytics,
busy.
and
That's
accounting.
Fine. That's fine. Chelsea's been doing productive things, and I have been going down the Brandon Sanderson rabbit hole.
Okay.
Now, Brandon Sanderson is a sci-fi fantasy author, and he is huge. He is a big deal. Like, I've known he's a big deal. I've never actually read his books. I started one, which is his big epic novel or series called Way of Kings.
I did start that one. I hated that book.
Oh, well, the problem that I had with this book is I'd read a little, I'd put it down, I'd read a little, I'd come back 3 months later, and it was just like, there's so much world building at the beginning. It's really like the first book basically is like the introductory to the world, from what I've heard, and people are like, oh, well, no wonder that was like the worst one to start with. You need to start with like all these other ones. I'm like, oh, okay.
Like,
but anyways,
that's the weirdest
I don't know
thing
how
to say though. Like we
know.
have to do this. Like before we jump into this, we have to say, okay. So if you are starting a show or a movie or a book, and you say, well, don't start with book number 1, start with book number 3, and then go back. It's
no,
like
that's not what they mean. No, they mean start with one of his other series.
Oh, okay.
Don't start with one of his other series, so you get used to him and understand his worlds and who he is, and then only then you'll be ready for class 201, 301.
Right.
You will have
no. What
evolved.
I was told to listen to that book by my brother-in-law Ben, and he is, he reads a lot, and so I thought, okay, this should be an interesting thing to see what comes out of this. This is like 45 hours or something crazy on Audible.
Yeah.
And I was driving home from Utah, and 10 hours in, I still don't know what's going on. Like,
right, yeah.
I am in this. I know I know these people, but there is no connection to it, and I was so ticked off because
like four different narrators happening, totally like not connected at all. Eventually, they do connect. Yeah. So that aside.
So I'm glad we had this talk, because I needed to vent that for a while.
Okay. Apparently Mistborn is where you're supposed to start.
Oh, okay.
Start on Mistborn, and that's a lot more digestible and different. It's like being a baby trying to eat steak. It's just not going to work if you start with Way of Kings, from what So now I know. Now, anyone else who hasn't read Sanderson, now you know as well. Don't start with, his big epic that he's known for. Start with something else. Anyways, so I don't know how it came to be, but one of his shorts came up on YouTube, and it was him giving a lecture, and it was just a little brief thing about talking about like writing, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting. He's a very engaging author, very engaging speaker. And so then I click on his page, and it turns out that he has been doing, despite his fame and fortune, he does this lecture series at BYU, Brigham Young University, and he has been doing it since 2004. And basically it's how to write sci-fi fantasy from the very beginning all the way to like the publishing industry and everything in between, like how to structure, what is plot and just it's very interesting. It's not where you're sitting and he's teaching you like, this is how you write a sentence. Like, it's not that. It's more high level, and like how to, world build and like create magic systems and like keep people engaged. And then at the very end, it's like, okay, you have this thing, like how do you break in? How do you get an agent? What is the publishing industry like? Like, what are your odds of breaking in? So it's just really interesting. And so he's been doing this, and every few years he puts the lectures online, and it just so happens that the 2025 one was the one that he's recorded, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I went back and I watched the first one and blew through that, was obsessed. And then within the next 24 hours I watched the remaining 11 for the semester that he had posted, or 10, and his last one of the semester was coming out the week later, so I had to wait a whole week. I had to drive all the way to work on a Saturday. All the way to work. I had to wait a whole week to get the final drop and then in the meantime, I went back and listened to previous year's lectures, like the 2012 one, the 2014, whatever, just because even though it was similar stuff, like he's literally he stands up there and he talks, like, and he's done this so many times, like he kind of knows where he's going, but because people ask different questions, and maybe like this lecture, he doesn't even cover this topic, he covers something slightly different, like potentially you can hit like a whole lot of new material. So I started diving down this Brandon Sanderson rabbit hole, despite not even having read his books. And now I'm probably about 50 episodes deep into his podcast. I've watched so many interviews. Like I've basically given up on all my other normal podcasts, which is shocking. If you know the type of podcast that I listen to, like it was, I had my 5 that I listened to every day. Like, I haven't touched those in 2 weeks. Like, it is all Brandon Sanderson all the time. It's just like all the YouTube videos, I'm just watching Brandon Sanderson stuff. Nothing spoilers, nothing about the books, because I do want to read the books, but it's just like listening to him do interviews, listening to him do podcasts. Like, yeah, so we can say, Morgan, I finally have a name for this. This is something that I do frequently. Like, I get very into a topic and I just like go all in. I have a hyperfixation.
I do too. It's okay.
Yeah. And so Brandon Sanderson is my hyperfixation right now. And so I'll include a link to the lecture series if you're interested. I thought it was fascinating. And I have, coming from someone who's never read his books and someone who has no interest in writing a book herself, I still thought it was one of the best things one of the best pieces of media I've consumed in a long time.
Oh, wow.
So,
well,
there you go.
It's also nice. So when you can go back to other sci-fi or fantasy movie novels that you have read or will read in the future, you can also be coming at as a more learned observer.
Indeed.
Yes.
All right. So we are actually going to be talking about something that I heard him talk about on his podcast, and I'll include a link to that one as well. But I thought we would have a different kind of take on it. There was a study that University of California, San Diego came out, UC San Diego, that actually said that spoilers make you enjoy that piece of art or media more. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Finding a new job is stressful. But with Indeed, it doesn't have to be. Just fill out your Indeed profile with your skills, experience, and desired salary. The more you fill out, the better your matches will be. And hearing from hiring managers will be 2 times more likely. Relax. That's your Indeed profile sending opportunities your way. Indeed, the world can work better.
At Capella University, you can learn at your own pace with our FlexPath learning format. Take 1 or 2 courses at a time and complete as many as you can in a 12-week billing session. With FlexPath, you can even finish the bachelor's degree you started in 22 months for $20,000. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu. Fastest 25% of students. Cost varies by pace, transfer credits, and other factors. Fees apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
I showed this little video to my cousin, who is a very avid reader. And she was annoyed, if not wanting to strangle anybody with the idea that spoilers are somehow a good thing. So
I feel the same way. I think this is abhorrent, this practice. But there are people who will go and go to a book and flip to the end and read it just so they can find out, like, who lived, who died.
Right.
Okay, great. Now I'm going to read it. And I'm like, why would you do such a thing?
Yeah. Well, and she said that she's like, the only time that she mentioned that as well. And she said the only time that I'm willing to even let that be a thing is for people who have clinical major PTSD type things and get really stressed out and need to know before, so that they're able to pass through with that, all the trials to get to that ending. And I was like, okay, all right.
But I've also read that with the trigger warnings on TV shows that actually make it worse for the people. Like, for people who actually have those things, by actually saying, hey, there's a trigger warning for X, Y, or Z, watch out, it makes it so much worse of an experience for them.
Yeah, I can definitely see how actually the trigger warning would make it worse, because then you're focusing on the trigger itself as opposed to it ends okay. So look toward the end of it ends okay. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I mean, this whole thing also did come to my mind. it was at like an outdoor fair, and there was a girl there who was an author, and she was trying to sell her book. And in order to tell you what it was, she would say something like, "Oh, it's an enemies to lover storyline." And to me, I feel like that in and of itself is a spoiler, but it's not a spoiler because that's almost like saying it's a rom-com. Like there's a romance in it, you know? So I don't know, but there's still like, it's still telling you part of the story, at least how it starts and how it ends. And it's just the pathway, the journey from the two that is something of a mystery. I think that that's really what matters, is making sure that the journey is still a mystery. And you may know that, okay, they all live happily ever after. Okay, great. But what actually happened? You know, so you're not actually telling people what happened. You're just giving them a tease of, you know, leave them thinking, oh, what will happen? I don't know. That's the only way I could think that this would be okay for me to say yes. Or even just like giving a trailer at all. But I don't know. There's a lot of trailers that totally like take all of the things from the movie, and you know, you're like, that's not a thing.
You're like, why am I going to go to the movie now? You basically spoiled the entire thing. Yeah, I know. We were talking about Revenge of the Sith. I remember for Revenge of the Sith, there were people saying, well, based on all the certain scenes that they've included in all the various trailers, you could basically piece together what happens in this movie. I mean, we obviously, if you're a Star Wars fan in any capacity, you know that Darth Vader or Anakin falls to the dark side.
Right.
Like that's what the next 3 movies are all about, right? So you know this is inevitable and has to happen, but did it make it enjoyable that it was semi-spoiled? And that's something I think that movies do a lot, is so in book form you have like the back cover that has the blurb about it. So in trying to promote a book, there's different levels of, am I giving you some context to entice you to read it, or and then how far does that go where you eventually spoil it? Right? And you give the example of, well, it's this trope, therefore we know the ending, but you don't know how we get there and everything in between. Okay. I would consider that a bit of a light spoiler, but at the same time, maybe it's just like, this is the type of genre, you know? I don't know. And then so there's the book equivalent, which is maybe the backside blurb. I don't think those typically spoil too much. Movies, on the other hand, very much can spoil, and there's been egregious examples of doing so.
Yes. Well,
so that's like, yeah.
I don't know. I think that like, going in it, you have also given several different podcasts and different things, and I was able to listen to one where they were discussing this, and they gave an example of like, okay, maybe it's better on the second time watching, and therefore you're already spoiled, and so it's, you know, that now you're left to be you're opened up to looking for the other things and putting all the puzzle pieces together, because now you're actually looking for the clues that they're throwing out there. And I can see that too. But also, the only way you would get to that point is if you enjoyed the payoff the first time. And like, I don't know, there's some things that I still remember the first time payoff, and that being a moment of like, yeah, I liked that thing. And you remember watching it. For example, they gave the example of the MCU. And actually, I just finished watching. This took me several months to do.
As it should.
As it should. Like, it was just like every couple days I would put another one on, just as like just kind of as a like wind down. And I guess in the way of like, I know what to expect, and so I don't have to fill my mind with unimportant things, and I can just enjoy. So in that way, I do get that it's like, these are good movies, and there's movies with high replay value that you're like, yes, I get why it's okay to be spoiled on this because I enjoy the payoff and I enjoy how it all works. I enjoy how in the MCU they really did a great job of making Tony Stark's character a full circle moment from the first to the end, and all of these things. Like these are, and Captain America, they brought all these things in. They tied up nice little bows on these, specifically these two main characters. So I can appreciate that and how they were saying that, but also as I was watching each one, I remembered my theater experience. And I remembered being with the fanboys and the fanboys going nuts at certain things, at certain, like, you know, like, oh my gosh, like every time a new thing was brought forth on one of those extra endings, you know, it was fun to be in the first seeing of it, you know? So I don't know. I feel like the enjoyment I have from the movies is even more impacted by the fact that I enjoyed it the first time as a surprise.
Yes. So in the study, it kind of, I guess there's certain personality types where they don't like having the anticipation, which I think is the normal way of thinking it. But you can't assume that everyone in the world thinks an accent does like you.
Yeah, I guess.
I think like the anticipation of like going to the movie and like I've been looking forward to this movie for such a long time and how is it going to happen? Oh, I'm just going to go and look up the spoilers beforehand so that I know what to expect. Like that seems so anticlimactic to me. I can't even comprehend doing that. So I think there's two different versions of spoilers. One, the self-imposed spoiler, where you go and seek out the information. Where you're saying,
which I've done that before.
I'm flipping to the back of the book.
Yeah.
I am going and I want to see who dies in the movie or whatever. I want to see all the plot points before the movie comes out because I just can't wait. I'm so excited. Or somebody accidentally spoils it for you or purposely spoils it for you.
Yeah.
Or perhaps you are on social media and you come across a post and you're spoiled.
Right.
That frequently happens, not frequently, but if I'm not careful for Survivor, if I'm not watching Survivor, even watching on you know, the day that Survivor comes out, but I'm
never
like scrolling on Twitter
on Survivor.
For me, I'm an avid Survivor watcher, but like if I watch it the next day and then I forget that I haven't watched it and I'm just scrolling on Twitter and it's like, dang it. I don't think this study is necessarily talking about that type of spoiler where you were so excited for something and you're anticipating something and someone ruins it for you.
Yeah.
Because that's the worst. Don't be that person.
Yeah, don't be that.
My son does that to my daughter who's reading the first Harry Potter book.
Aww.
And he's read all of them. And he's like, oh, her from this, and this. And oh, she's actually a witch. I'm like, knock it off.
Aww.
Knock it off. This is not fun.
He's getting there is a personality that would like to be the one to be the purveyor of facts.
It's like it's the purveyor of facts and then like the power struggle of like I know more than you.
Right. Well, I also think about somebody who goes out and looks for non-spoiler reviews or even spoiler reviews. I will say that I would say that is more vetting. Like, I would like to go to somebody who has already seen it and tell me whether or not I will enjoy this so that I don't feel disappointed after. So I guess, but in a way that is still a spoiler of like, it was done well. Even saying that is tinting your experience because you're going in with some kind of expectation. I don't know. There's some theater experiences that I think about when that first time you watched Twilight series on screen and we're there for part 2 and the moment that person dies, everyone's like, what?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it was like the most amazing theater experience I think I've ever been in. And I think those are things that it's like you really want to have that as a memory. You want to be able to think, oh man, when we saw this that first time. And this is going back to our other conversation of like, is the theater experience dead or is it worth it for replaying? I think it is because like even for the experience of There's one, I remember you sent me a video of an outdoor viewing of Harry Potter, the first one, and it was like the symphony was actually playing all of the music live, which is such a great experience. I highly recommend. But there's the moment where they're down in the caves and he's like, "No, Hermione, not not him, not Hermione, you have to be the one." And like the entire audience had memorized that. I don't have it memorized, but the entire audience had that one phrase memorized. And like having those kind of communal experiences it's so wonderful. And I think that I think there's both sides of I want to be spoiled. I don't want to be spoiled, but I do want somebody to vet it for me in some days where I'm like, I don't know if I trust these people to make a good movie. Yeah, so those are my thoughts.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the other Nerdy Couch discussion we had in episode 343 talking about re-releases. And I think it's that communal experience of you have been spoiled on the movie. You know this movie. It's a beloved movie. You've probably watched it many, many times. Mm-hmm. And so by knowing the beginning to the end, in that sense, the spoilers don't decrease your enjoyment. Mm-hmm. But it's a totally different experience. It's not... I separate a first-time view from a anniversary, like whatever, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I still had just as much fun. Well, am I proving the point?
I don't know.
I had just as much fun knowing the movie. It's a totally different thing because I consider it two different experiences, but I had such a great time already knowing the movie and where it was going. And then seeing it with a big group of people as I did the very, very first time when none of us knew what to expect.
Right.
And it was so funny. I saw some tweets. And again, I call myself a boomer, and the fact that I'm always going to call them tweets and Twitter, whatever. That's my thing. And I'm not a boomer, just so you know. People who've never seen me, I'm not a boomer, but definitely a millennial. But there were so many people that were like, I've seen this movie so many times, and each time I hope that he's not going to turn to the dark side. Maybe this will be the time. It's like kind of true. It's like, come on, Anakin, do the right thing.
That's funny.
So that is our discussion on spoilers. I think spoilers don't make the movie more enjoyable, especially if it's something that you are eagerly anticipating and that you're looking forward to. Being spoiled is literally the worst. However, I think in the main context of this study, is my personality one where I'm going to go seek out a spoiler so that way I can enjoy it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But there are people out there that like that. So I'm interested. What are your thoughts on spoilers? Do spoilers make a piece of art or media better for you, particularly movies? Does it make it worse? Do you seek them out? Do you go on the fan forums and look it up beforehand? I want to know. So go to rotoscopers.com/344 to let us leave your comments there and let us know.
Until next time,
we are the Rotoscopers. Speaking of hyperfixations, going back to where we started, I've rekindled my Hayden Christensen hyperfixation. I started to go down his rabbit hole. Okay. Like the movies that he's done that I didn't watch, or were you just what has he done over the he faded away from acting for a while. He actually has a farm in Ontario that he has, nice. And really cool. And so he's just he kind of likes living away from the spotlight. But so I watched a movie, one of his, which was called Little Italy, and it's a rom-com about, you guessed it, families, Italian families in Little Italy. But no, not that Little Italy in New York. It's actually in Canada, which I was like, well, that's lame. Whatever. I mean, I know there are Little Italys everywhere, but I was like...
Hey, Morgan, Canadians are people too.
He's a Canadian, so I think he's like, sure, of course, it's the Little Italy in Quebec. But
we love you, Canada. It's fine.
That made me, as an American, I was like, this movie has a point down. The whole movie was not great. He has an Italian accent for some reason.
Okay.
And like the girl he supposedly grew up with, enemies to lovers sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Like there were lovers meeting friends to enemies to lovers, at the end. And she doesn't have one, despite their families being like close knit, and they like third generation.
Oh, she doesn't have an Italian accent.
She doesn't have one. She's like this crisp, clear accent, and he's the one with like the thick, like, come on, brother. I can't even do it. But, like,
hey,
anyways,
come on, brother.
Yes, basically. And like, I don't even know if I would recommend it. It was the reason I wouldn't recommend it. It was super crude, like just tons of really crude jokes that I'm like, really? Was this needed? Do we need to go there? Anyway, so there was a few easy things they could have done to make it good, and they didn't. Anyways, Morgan's mini review of Little Italy
with Hayden Christensen.
Yes. Okay.
You've been listening to the Animation Addicts podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to help spread the word, be sure to share the podcast with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag us at Rotoscopers on Instagram and use the hashtag AnimationAddicts. For all the links and full show notes for this episode, go to rotoscopers.com/podcast. Now, if you still can't get enough for your animation fix, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and visit rotoscopers.com for more animation news, reviews, and interviews. Thanks for listening.